In this short video, we will be learning about how to model the data structure of our applications in Altogic. And for this purpose, we will be modeling the data structure of a simple order management application. So our basic product order management application will have three models. The first one is the customer, the second one is the orders, and the third one is the products. When we say about the models basically corresponds to a table in relational databases or a collection in non-relational databases. We also need to learn, before proceeding further, we also need to learn about the JSON, because Altogic uses JSON in database operations. So whenever you would like to fetch some data from the database, you will be getting a JSON object, or whenever you would like to insert a new record in the database, then you need to send a JSON object. And similarly, whenever you would like to update an existing object or record, then you need to send a JSON object. So what do we mean by JSON? Some of you might be familiar with JSON, so you can skip this section. But what JSON stands for is there's a JavaScript object notation. It's basically a file format, defines the structure of a file. So the JSON objects are represented with key value pairs. The keys are basically the values that you see on the left on the column. So for example, name is a key and John Adams is a value for that key. Similarly, email is a key and john@email.com is a value for that email. In JSON, you can have like this string values or text values which are wrapped between double quotes. You can have integers, you can have doubles, you can have Boolean values. You can also have sub-objects. Okay, whenever you see curly brackets inside the JSON object, this means that this is a sub-object, sub-model object. So in our example, for example, we've got the preferences, which is modeled as sub-object, and it has got two fields, the allow notifications and the allow emails. Those are both, let's say, have Boolean values. Another case is in JSON objects, you might also have list of objects or array of objects. The list or array of objects are represented with the square brackets. Anything between the square brackets are basically represents that, hey, I'm keeping a list or array of objects or values. In our example, we are keeping a list of addresses as object lists. So we've got two addresses in this example, one of them in Chicago and the other one in Anaheim. That's a short introduction about the course content and JSON. So let's proceed. Let's go to Altogic and start modeling our simple order management, product order management backend. The first model that we will be creating is the customers. So we will be creating it from scratch, and its name will be customers. Okay, this will be stored in the database. It's a permanent model. Usually we use the transient models if we would like to pass some input parameters to our services, but which we don't want to store in the database. But in our case, this is a permanent model which will be stored in the database. We will enable the timestamp so that Altogic will automatically set created and updated at fields for this model. Clicking on next, we don't need this automatically generated endpoints and services for now. Let's click on create and create our first customer model. So Altogic created the customer model. As you can see, there are some default fields that are automatically generated. The first one is the ID field. This is the unique identifier of customer objects in the database. Created and updated that since we selected enabling the timestamps, Altogic also created the updated and created that date time fields and added to the customer's model. These are system generated fields and their values are managed by Altogic, so you cannot modify, you cannot manually set the values of these fields. Okay, let's add some additional fields to this customer. What information we can keep for customers? Obviously, we can keep the first name, okay, of our customers. We can say that, hey, this is stored in the database. Will I be searching the first name in the database? If I will be searching customers by name, then it will be a good idea to index this value. This field will be required, so whenever we create a new customer or whenever the people are signing up for our backend, we will make this field as required, and if they don't provide this data field value, then Altogic will raise an error. Okay, this is a required field. There are some additional text properties that I can also set. We can limit which kind of characters that they can enter, but let's say, I mean, we will be, for the moment, we will be trailing, leading, and trailing spaces, and we will do a text transformation. Whatever input they have, we will be converting it to a sentence case. Okay. So this is for the first name. Let's add the last name. Okay. Again, it is index, it's required field, text properties, trim, then sentence case, then the last name. Okay. Then the next one will be, if assuming that our customers will be signing up using an email and providing a password, then we should have an email for our customers, of email of our customer. Okay. This is again indexed, and this is a required field. And our customers might also have the password, right? They need to have a password to sign in to our backend application. So let's give it password. This is a required field. And I also click on the omit here. This is an important feature of Altogic, meaning that for some sensitive data, you can choose whether to send this data to the calling party. Okay, so for example, when our front end asks for a user object or a list of user objects, do I really would like to send the password information as a response? Okay. In this case, I don't. I mean, even we keep the password fields as encrypted values in the database. We don't want to send the password field values back to the calling party. So I marked it as omitted, meaning that whenever user objects or a single user object is returned to a calling party like a front end, then the password field value will not be returned back in the response. Okay. What else we can add? Okay, we know the first name and last name of the customer. Why don't we create the full name for our customers? Okay, full name. Do I need to keep this information in the database? The first question that I will ask. No, we don't need to keep this information in the database, because since we know the first name and the last name of our customers, then we can basically build the full name. How we do that? Basically, we define a default value expression. When I click on the FX icon here, okay, the expression editor opens, and I automatically see the values, the fields of the user object that I'm currently modeling. So what will be the full name? It's basically the first name of our customers plus, okay, a space and the last name. Okay, that's how we are modeling, let's say, string concatenation or text concatenation in Altogic. Additionally, you can do the same thing with functions. Okay, there is a concat function, basically, which gets input as the text value. So if I want to do the same thing using the concatenation, what I need to do is, for example, concat first name, then last name. But before the last name, I need to put a space here. Then I need to put the last name. So these two things are the same things. The first one is basically convenience method, where I use the plus signs to concatenate text. The second one is basically using the concatenation function. Okay, so let's skip the simpler version. So we've got the name, full name of the customer. What else we can add to customers? We can add, for example, let's say birth date, right? Birth date for our customers, because maybe you would like to send some deals or discounts at your customer's birth date, so you might want to store this information. Okay, let's keep it indexed. It's not required field. We don't mandate people, customers, to enter the birth date information. Okay, what else we can have? Maybe for statistical purposes, we can have the age of our customers, right? We might need to see what's the average age, what's the age of our customers. So in this case, this will have a default value expression, and I don't need to store it in the database, because the age of a person changes every year, right? I mean, the next year we will be aging one more year and so on. So it doesn't make much sense to calculate the age value and store it in the database. So this age value needs to be dynamically calculated. So how we do that one? It's again very easy. We will be using some built-in functions of Altogic. So we will be using the year function, and we will be getting the current date and time. Okay, now is another function that we use to get the current date and time. Now then we will be subtracting from this one the birth year of our customer. So it will be again year, then between the years we will be putting the birth date. So basically current year minus the year of our customer's birthday will give us the age of the customer. Okay, so that's the age, how we set the default value for the age. What else we can have? We can have addresses of our customers, right? This is an order management, let's say, application. So whenever a customer puts creates an order, then they specify the billing address and shipping address. So we also need to keep the list of addresses for our customers. Okay, there are a couple of ways that you can model this address information in Altogic. One option is that you can keep the address information under your customers, okay, as a object list of addresses, or you can create a separate model for address, keeping the address information, and build a relationship between customers and the addresses and using the object references and so on. In this example, since we are not expecting like hundreds or thousands of addresses for our customers, then we will be using the object list as to model our customers address information. Okay, addresses. Again, we can enable the timestamps for the addresses. So Altogic automatically created all the required fields, including the ID, created and updated. There is one additional field Altogic also created automatically. This is the parent. The parent is basically pointing to the ID of the parent object. In this case, this parent value will keep the value of the customer's ID. Okay, so whenever you get the address information, Altogic will also provide you the parent information, so you know this address belongs to that specific customer. So what kind of information we can put on the addresses? Definitely we can put the street. Okay, this is a required field. We can also keep the, let's say, city information. Okay, for city information we can also say that this is also a required field. What else we can put? We can also put here like the state, right? If it's a US address, then we can put state. I picked the option list. Okay, this is not required field, by the way. I mean, if somebody is not living in United States, then they don't need to enter the state information. So you can put the list of the states and the name of the states, like the Illinois or New York or California. Yeah, you get the name, you got it. So you can put all the lists of the states, US states, in here. Okay, we can also have the country information. So this is a required field. We can keep the country information here. Okay, so the state information is optional. Okay, it's only mandatory required when this when for addresses that are for US, right? So we need to, in a sense, we need to let's say add a validation rule, custom validation to the state field, saying that if the address is US address, then the state field should be mandatory required field. How do I do that one? This is not default value expression, but it's a validation rule that we need to create a custom validation rule in this case. So the rule name will be state is mandatory for US addresses. The rule expression, the validation rule expression is the expression that will be evaluated, and whenever it evaluates to false, it will raise an error message. So in our case, what will be the validation rule? The validation rule we will be writing down is the following. If the country is US, okay, and if the value of the state is empty, okay, there's a function called isEmpty. Basically it checks if the input text has any value or not. So if the state value is empty, okay, then I need to raise an error message. But the validation rule works as if the expression evaluates to false. Okay, so in order for this thing to evaluate to false, then I need to put here not. Okay, in this case, if the country is US and if the state information is missing, empty, then the internal expression will evaluate to true. But since we are wrapping the internal expression inside the not function, then the final expression will evaluate to false. Then what will be the error message? We say state is mandatory for US addresses. Please be careful. I put this error message in single quotes. You can also use this double quotes. But whenever you see an fx icon, whenever you define an expression, the text values or string values, you always need to wrap them around double quotes or single quotes in Altogic. Okay. So we also created the validation rule for our state. Okay. What else we can have? We can have, for example, customer preferences, right? This is an order management application, so customers might have some preferences. In this case, I will be using the object to model preferences, because you can think of the object like a grouping, a logical grouping of some related values, okay? So I will call the name of my group as preferences, okay? Object properties, I don't need to enable the timestamps for this one, okay? So what are some of the preferences that the customers can have? For example, they can have saying that, hey, send emails, okay? If your customers doesn't want to receive some marketing or sales related emails, then they can turn it on or off. Let's put it initially as a default value true, so that the customers will receive some emails. Another one will be, for example, send notifications. This can be like whenever customer is interested in a product which was out of stock, and maybe you replenished your stock and you would like to send some notifications to interested customers, then this can be the flag that the customers can turn on and off. Okay, so let's call it true. Okay, so for now I think customer information is fine. We can move to model other objects or other models. Actually, I realized that I forgot to add some additional fields to the address sub-objects. One additional field that we can add to the addresses is the geolocation, right? If the customer entered like the text field, text value of the street address, and so on, maybe you might want to use, let's say, Google's Maps API to convert textual address information to geolocation, right? The longitude and latitude pairs. So let's say we will be doing that one. So our field name will be geolocation. Okay. This is not a required field, because in some cases you might not be able to identify the geolocation of the address, because maybe the Maps API returns an invalid value, or it cannot identify the location, like longitude latitude pair, so it will not be a required field. Okay. Another thing that we add for the address is the type of the address, right? We can again an option list the type of the address. What can be the type of that? It can be like the shipping address, it can be billing address, or it can be both, right? Both the shipping and billing address. Okay, I think that's fine for the customer objects. Let's move to the other models. Let's move to which one we should move. Okay, we can move to the products, right? We can move to the products. So let's create a new model. Products. This is again a permanent model. We will enable the timestamps. For now, we will not be creating the default endpoints and services. Okay. You got the basic body of the products. Let's add the fields related to the products. Obviously, we will have the name of the product, right? And this will be a required field. The next one will be maybe description of the product. I will be adding a rich text field because the description of the product can be quite long. So let's add a description as a rich text field. This is also required. The next one will be, maybe we might have some product tags defining the different characteristics of the product, like the color or the material used and so on. For that purpose, we typically use basic value list. Basic value list is actually an array of values. It's not an array of objects, right? Submodel list is an array of objects. Basic values list is an array of values, like array of integers, array of decimals, array of text values, and so on. So let's put here tags, the name. It will be indexed. Do we require it? No, it's not required. I mean, sometimes you might not have the text for that product. The type of the value that this basic value list hold will be text, like the color red. or the material, plastic or cotton or whatever. So we will be keeping this kind of text values in this basic value list. The next one will be the stock quantity, right? How many of these items are how many of these items we have in stock, and this is index and this is required. Then this will be positive numbers and 0 because our stock number can be 0. Okay. The next one would be unit price. Okay. This will be decimal. This will be index. This will be required. And decimal, let's say that, hey, this will be like 2 decimal places, fine. And we will only allow positive numbers and 0. Okay. What else we can add here? Unit price, stock quantity, text, description name. I think that's pretty much. Oh, okay. We can also add some images, right, describing our product. We can do in a couple of different ways. Maybe we can have like a primary image for this product and some additional images and so on. So let's put the primary image as follows. We will have a file reference. Okay. Primary image ID, and this will be indexed and required. We will be mandating like at least one image for the product to be available. So basically what it does is the following. Whenever you upload an image using the Altogic, let's say, services to upload an image, it will automatically generate a file ID for that uploaded image, and we will be saving that file ID, unique identifier of the file, in this primary image ID. Additionally, we can also add here a URL link, primary image URL, okay, indexed and required, meaning that there will be an URL corresponding to this image ID, so that in your front end, in your image tag, you can directly specify this URL and it will be displayed on your front end. On top of this one, primary ones, we can have some list of images. Okay, so in that case, we can again use basic value list. Okay, additional image IDs. Okay, and the type of this one will be identifier. So we will be keeping a list of image identifiers in this basic value list. Finally, we can also do the same thing for the URLs. Additional image URLs, and the type will be link. Okay, so we are done with the products definition. Then let's move to the last one, the orders definition. So for orders, what we can do, obviously customers will have some orders, right? I mean, every day or every month the customer can place, I don't know, 1, 2, 10, depends on the habit of the customer, but the number of orders can get quite large at some point in the future. So in that case, it doesn't make much sense to add the orders as a object list under customers object, because we know that for some customers which might be frequently using this application, the order management system and so on, there might be thousands of orders, and putting thousands of orders under customer can slow down our queries, because typically the ideal size of a customer will be like a few kilobytes to receive data fast. So if you add here the orders information, like the thousands of orders, the size of the customer object will become quite large, and it will decrease the performance of our queries, both insert, update, and get, and so on. So what we will be doing is that we will be creating a separate orders object, okay, orders model. And again, we will be enabling the timestamps, and we will be disabling the default endpoints and services. So what kind of information we need to keep in the orders? Obviously, we need to keep the list of, let's say, products that this order includes. Like you can think of this like a shopping cart. In the shopping cart, there are multiple products. Each product has a quantity and an associated price. So first thing we will be doing is that we will be creating an object list, okay, the list of products for this order, okay, and under the products we will have a reference to the specific product, right? This product, the product under this order will be pointing to a product, okay, this will not be file reference, sorry, this will be an object reference. This will be a product ID. We will be keeping a product ID, and this will point to a product in our products, let's say, collection table. What else? What other information we keep? We keep obviously the number of items sold, right? Order quantity. So this is a required field. Integer properties, it will be only positive numbers. 0 is not allowed, okay, for this case. What else we can have? Okay, this is the order quantity and so on. The order might also have like the shipping address and the billing address. In that case, we will be again having an object reference, shipping address, and this is a required field, and it will be pointing to one of the addresses of the customer. Another field will be like the billing address, again object reference, and this is again required. Again, it will be pointing to an address of a customer. What else we can put here? Maybe we can also put here the price, right? Because maybe the product price changes at a later time, so we need to use the price that were applicable at the time of the sale. So let's say put here the unit price. Okay, and this is required field. Okay, so we got the order information. So we need to link this order to customer, right? Each customer will have different number of orders and so on. The easiest way to do that one is again adding an object reference, okay, customer ID. Then this will be pointing to a customer. So in order to improve the performance of our queries, because what happens is the following. Okay, let's assume that you're a customer, you sign into the platform and you go to your account and you would like to see your last 10 orders, and you see your orders and so on. In the orders, you would like to see the list of products that you purchased, okay, the name of the product, maybe the image of the product and so on. What happens is the following. If we model this way, we need to do a lookup, or we need to do a lookup to link this product. Whenever we fetch the order information, we need to do a lookup for the product ID, and we need to go to the products table and fetch the product name and product, let's say, image, primary image, and so on. In order to improve the performance of that kind of queries, what you can do is the following. You can duplicate some data, okay? Let's say product name. And required. So whenever we add a product, whenever a customer adds a product to an order and so on, we can also copy the product name from the products table for that specific product in this collection, in this object. Additionally, we can also put here the URL, right? Where is that one? Sorry, here. Product primary image URL. Okay. It's fine. So we've got the two key things that we need to show when displaying the orders and associated product and the primary image URL. If that wasn't the case, as I mentioned, you need to make a lookup, join the tables, join the collections, whatever you call, to products, and you need to fetch the product information and display that information. So this will be improving the performance of our queries. Of course, I mean, sometimes you might be changing the image of the product or the name of the product. Those might be rare cases, but even if those cases, you would like to keep the original name or keep the original image, so that the customer will see what product and what, let's say, what type of product that they purchased and so on. So you don't make a confusion for the customer. Alternatively, you can also always update the orders table, and for the products that are updated names or the primary images, you can do a bulk operation to update all this URL and the product name information. Okay, so that's it for now. In this short video, we learned about how to model the data structure of our applications. In this example, we created 3 models, basically customers, products, and orders, and defined the relationships between these different orders, and defined the hierarchy of these different models. Thanks a lot for watching.